What up, and welcome back to LSU Live. I'm your host, Lewis Johnson. It's been a while, been a few weeks, been a few crazy weeks, been missing out on the show, but I'm back. I have a lot of thoughts, I have a lot of opinions, and I have a lot of complaining to do. But before we get there, we got a jam-packed show. A lot going on tonight. We got a special guest, host of Texas A&M Live, will be on in a few minutes. Before we get to Texas A&M, LSU, of course, is coming off a loss to Vanderbilt. And look, I understand the frustration. I get it, completely get it. But I think a lot of the fan base is looking at this kind of wrong. And when I say the fan base is looking at this loss wrong, should you be disappointed? Of course. Should LSU be expected to go on the road and beat Vandy? Of course. But if this is the game that kind of was the last straw for you, then I don't know what you've been watching, because I got news for you. The Ole Miss loss was worse than the Vanderbilt loss. Vanderbilt is better than Ole Miss. Vanderbilt's good. Nothing that I saw on Saturday surprised me. Now, of course, I'm going to move on from Vanderbilt. That game is gone. It's in the past. LSU is now 5-2. You got 2 losses on the year. But before I move on, I got to get a few things off my chest about Vandy. Look, Vanderbilt is not the loss that people think it is. You got to kind of remove your preconceived notions about Vanderbilt. Forget about the name. Forget about the uniforms that are thrown out there. This is a solid team, and they were favored for a reason. But they did expose LSU's program in some ways. Loss wasn't terrible, but they did expose LSU's program. And the first and the main thing I'll say about that before I move on to our guest is, you look at the staff and you see what Vanderbilt was able to get out of their players, out of their talent, knowing who they are, having an identity. Vanderbilt amplified the difference between okay guys on the staff and elite guys on the staff. Great guys that get the most out of their talent. So that was the biggest takeaway from that game. Now, as I said, we got a special guest tonight. I want to thank Cameron Ohnysty, host of Texas A&M Live on the Voice of College Football Network, and also a writer for Aggies Wire. Cameron, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, it's always good to just talk ball and
hold on one second. I think you're still muted.
This is a big one. This is a big one for both programs for sure. So,
Cameron, I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? Let's see. Let's see if I got to.
You muted on your end?
I should be good.
All right. Gotcha.
You got me now?
Yeah, that's on my end. Okay. Welcome to the show, man. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no, like I just said, it's good to talk ball, and it's good to preview every game, and this is a big one for both programs. Obviously, A&M's undefeated and having one of the best seasons they've had in a while. Still 5 games going in the regular season. LSU's tripped up last week, and they really have to respond. And I've already seen some of the LSU fan base not too happy with what Brian Kelly's doing, and some want to move on, and some are still holding out hope that he can rebound. But this is just a massive game, and obviously A&M has not won in Baton Rouge, Death Valley since 1994 when I was born. So it's been a while. That's for sure.
Huge game, man. Absolutely huge game. As you said, the heat is on for Brian Kelly. I hope I didn't speak too soon.
Yeah.
Leading into the season, I would tell anybody that Kelly, his job isn't in danger in 2025. I thought maybe you'd have some offensive line problems and some OC problems, and you might have to make a few staff change-ups after 2025, but I thought he'd be safe. But you look at LSU right now with 2 losses, and you got A&M coming in ranked number 3. You got Alabama a week later. On the other side of the ball, you got Texas A&M, 7-0, first time since 1994, like you said, riding high. You look at the coaching searches going on and the possible potential coaching searches. You look at places like Auburn, you already have Florida looking for a coach, and it kind of reinforces how hard it is to find an elite coach. A&M might have found that guy. So give me a vibe check, man. What are the vibes like in College Station right now with that fan base?
I mean, it's great right now, and I can honestly say that it wasn't like this going into the 2025 offseason. The way that A&M ended the 2024 season, going 1-4, finishing 8-5 overall. Obviously, the jokes surrounding A&M is 8-4, 8-4. You can hear any Texas fan from abroad just kind of yelling that all the time and saying that kind of defines who Texas A&M is. Well, Mike Elko, who is one of the most elite defensive coaches out there. Obviously, they didn't really show that last week, but throughout the season, you've seen that he is still one of the best play callers. And the management, the style, the recruiting has reached, the highest levels, matching what Jimbo Fisher did. That's what's really impressed this fan base. Obviously, going 7-0, starting 7-0, and winning on the road against Notre Dame was a really pushed this program ahead and got the fan base back to thinking, look, Mike Elko may be the guy for years to come. This is not a Jimbo Fisher type of situation where, stealing him from Florida State, when we all kind of know now that Florida State really wasn't, putting the money up. They weren't giving him the resources he wanted, the new facilities he wanted. A&M was. And, after winning a national championship during, I think it was the 2011, 2012 season with the Seminoles, it looked like a big get, right? But after 6 years and I started covering A&M professionally during the 2022 season. That season with that historic recruiting class that just kind of got dismantled after a couple of years. Really only a couple of guys were left on this roster from that class. 5-7 finish. Fisher getting fired after the 23 season. None of us really knew where this program was going and headed. Mike Elko, who served as A&M's defensive coordinator from 2018 to 2021, was really the best staff member they had in a long, long time. A&M's best wins, including the win over Alabama in College Station during the 21 season, was really Elko's play calling to, basically make that Alabama offense look pedestrian in a lot of areas. And we all knew deep down, and especially those of us who cover A&M professionally, thought, this is a guy that should be considered after what was almost a Mark Stoops hire, which I can't tell you what that would have looked like. Finally, they got their heads screwed on right, hired Mike Elko after 2 successful seasons at Duke, turning that program around. And again, though, you asked about the vibe check. It's fantastic right now. There's a lot of apologies from certain fans and everyone. Well, I was completely wrong. This guy knows what he's doing. Obviously, we can every time we do recruiting updates and talk about the how these elite prospects who are considering every blue blood on the planet are picking A&M, including Brandon Arrington is one I always like to point out, the number 1 athlete cornerback in the 26th class. Loves College Station, has a very strong relationship with the coaching staff. And that's really what we hear all around with these kids, is that this place feels like home. It's all about the family. They always bring their mom, dad, uncles, aunts, everybody in to experience and to say, we're going to take care of your son for the next 3 to 4 years. And that's what's really building here. But he's showing it on the field finally. And the way that they're winning games, we go back to Notre Dame, where it had to be a shootout. Well, it was a shootout, and they won with, a game-winning touchdown at the end. Defense didn't really show up, but that was against one of the better teams in Notre Dame. And even last week, there were some elite defensive showings in the middle of SEC play, but, they gave up over 500 yards of offense against Arkansas. Elko, after the game, basically said, my defense sucked. We couldn't do anything. We had to go on 4th down 3 times, all 3 times successful. We had to win on offense. And that's really what's turned everybody in this fan base around, going, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. He's not sticking to his laurels. He's not doing what Fisher did, essentially, was, didn't change things up mid-game. A&M would have probably lost that game last week if Jimbo Fisher was coaching, because he probably would have stuck to, well, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We're not going to change mid-game when the quarterback's killing us in these certain areas and we need to change things up. So that's really why he's getting interest from Penn State. That's why, he had to answer that question on Monday, basically saying, look, it's a waste of brain space, which he said, of, being connected with Penn State. But the reason he's getting attention like this isn't just because A&M 7-0. It's the way he's coached. It's the way he's taking full control of this program and the way the players are responding every week.
So yeah, man, the coaching search rumors, they can get kind of silly. Like,
Yeah.
Penn State might be interested, but why would he be interested? Why do you make that move, which is lateral at best? At best, it's lateral. But I'm glad you touched on his ability to manage the program, because that's one of the things that kind of stuck out to me last weekend watching LSU against Vanderbilt. Whereas LSU has assembled a lot of talent, Vanderbilt has successfully assembled a team. So what would you say that Elko's best attribute as a coach is right now?
So, I mean, the defense, really the way, I think what we're going to see this weekend is how they respond after really allowing Arkansas quarterback Taylor Green to just shred them with his arm and his legs. And they really weren't containing him at all on the edge. He had the ability to just get around, straight line his way 20, 30 yards and then kind of pick apart the secondary because they were afraid of the run. They're not going to be facing that with Nussmeier this week. Obviously, he's more of a pocket passer. He really can't make a ton of plays out of structure, and he's not extremely mobile. He can make plays with his legs, but I don't expect him to do that. But really, I'm not going to say defense right now because that's, he's calling defensive plays and everybody's going to lay on that. But it's the in-game changes. It's the second half changes that have led to A&M being 7-0, because we go back to last week, and I think last week's game really showed why Mike Elko is one of the best coaches in college football right now. A&M was leading, I believe, it was 21-6, and they allowed 2 consecutive touchdowns. Arkansas just drove down the field, ended up being just behind by 1 point going into halftime. The Arkansas fans, this is a rainy game, and they started flooding back into the stadium, thinking, okay, we got a chance. And like I said, if this was a Jimbo Fisher type of led team, I wouldn't expect A&M to win this game. But Mike Elko knew that his defense wasn't going to do anything else. Like, Taylor Green had found the solution. He knew that, we can try to contain to stop a couple drives, but all in all, we need to score on pretty much every drive. And right after the half ended, Arkansas cheering, A&M's on offense. They feel like if we get a stop here, we can take the lead, and then we can really control this game. Starting quarterback Marcel Reed ran, I think it was like a 45-yard run, set up a 17-yard touchdown strike to star wide receiver Casey Concepcion, and A&M went up 28-20. Didn't look back. It was a back-and-forth contest, but they led the entire way. And outside of a little bit of a hairy situation in the middle of the game, they just kept striking on offense. Great play calling by O.C. Colin Klein. And so really it's just his, like I said earlier, it's his control of this team. It's his control of the staff of saying, we need to be on the same page. We see the game flow, and we need to pay attention to what's working, what's not working, and really push of what's working. Because if we end this game in a shootout and fans complain about this not working, or, the score's ugly, or is this going to, seep into next week? It doesn't matter. You win the game. And I feel like he was very, very happy to not have to play Bobby Petrino again, because he's going to give a lot of teams headaches down the stretch, including A&M's rival Texas, who still has to play Arkansas later this season. But it's the same in this game, right? This is the first time that Elko is going to be head coach going into Baton Rouge, going into Death Valley, going into a sold-out, stadium that I believe, you'd have to correct me, they're 18-1 against ranked opponents at night. I believe it's one of those type of records where, it's pretty hard to win, even against, I would say, an average LSU team, just because the fan base really gets behind them. That place gets so loud. This is going to be one of the biggest challenges, but the fact that they got the job done in South Bend, a place where Notre Dame probably is going to lose again this season, that's why I predicted on our show yesterday that A&M will squeak out a close win. But at the same time, this is another opportunity for Mike Elko to just prove, I'm the guy, I can get this done, and we're the better team. And, we see with great coaches, obviously James Franklin, who we just mentioned with Penn State, one of the reasons he got fired wasn't because, he couldn't get them to 11, 12 wins in a season, that he couldn't dominate the regular season. It was winning big games, and, losing to Oregon the way they did, the season's obviously gone to hell now, but at the same time, he didn't get fired for XY. He got fired for Z of you can't win those big contests and you're never going to win a championship if you don't do that. Mike Elko still has to prove that, but Saturday is just another box to check.
Yeah, another chance for him to so that he can elevate a program even more so than a team. And look, I know you're short on time, but I just got a couple more for you. You mentioned Marcel Reed. Obviously, key point in that game against Arkansas was his big run. A key point in LSU's season last year was his insertion into the lineup where it sent LSU on a downward trajectory for the rest of the year. How has Marcel Reed evolved this year into a complete quarterback?
Confidence. I mean, complete confidence, and he's fixing issues every week. So I will say against Mississippi State, this is a game that A&M blew out the Bulldogs 31-9, but this was a close game. This was a 7-3 at one point going into half. And that was mainly because Reed was double clutching his throws. He was taking too many deep shots. He has the receivers to get that done. But both of his top receivers right now, Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver, are 5'11" and 5'9". So they're not those X guys that, can beat one-on-one coverage due to their length and their height and the difference between the cornerbacks that are covering them. So the guys really just have to beat the coverage, and it has to be a perfectly thrown ball, which he can still do, and he has shown over the past 2 games. But this game against Arkansas was probably his best game of his career overall. Mike Elko said it. I think all of us who watched it were just amazed by the maturity, the decision to check down more and get the first down instead of taking the deep shot. That's really what won them this game. Now, he had to take one of his best throws of the game, was a 37-yard strike on the left hash to Ashton Bethel-Roman, one of the sophomore wide receivers who really showed out this preseason. That was the throw that I think all of us said this really epitomized his improvement this season, that if he can make those throws and he can lead this team down the field on to 7 touchdowns. And I mean, I think they punted twice in the game, and that was mainly his decision-making. They had a good run game. They had over 200 yards on the ground. But if it wasn't for him making the smart throws and the smart decisions and trusting his offense, they would have lost this game. And that's the thing. We talked about all offseason. Can we trust Marcel Reed to lead this offense? And I mean, lead this offense on the road. Well, so far they've won 2 games. A lot of credit was given to Mario Craver against Notre Dame after I think he had over 207 yards receiving. He was just destroying that secondary. But at the same time, the final drive was all Marcel Reed. It was confidence, finding his playmakers, dinking and dunking his way down the field. And during the 4th down call, he and Colin Klein were on the same page of we need to get to a big target in the end zone. They trusted Nate Boerkircher, their transfer tight end, who basically caught the ball with his eyes closed before. I mean, he was mismatched against a corner. The ball came to him. It was a perfect throw, and it was outside. It was kind of an outside throw, so he can get leverage on his corner. And it was just a perfect pass, and it really did show that this young man is the future of this program right now. Now, he could struggle, and you could easily see that happen against LSU this weekend. But at the same time, the fact that they fixed some of the mechanics that, especially his footwork, which was killing a lot of the accuracy issues, that's not completely fixed yet, but it's still a work in progress. But so far, the fact that he and Colin Klein are on the same page, and that it's really just about getting out with a win, not style points, not getting a guy, feeding a guy more than the other. This team is playing together, and they completely trust their signal caller, who, like you said, he's a dual threat guy. He can tear it up with his legs. I don't know if that's going to be the case against LSU's defense this weekend, but if there's an opening, he's not hesitant anymore like he was early in the season to take that run, pick up that first down. I would hope he slides a little more. He's on the lighter side, but at the same time, he's playing like a Heisman Trophy candidate right now. And I wouldn't say that otherwise if that wasn't truly the case. I mean, I've been covering this kid for now the last 2 years, and going back to his road win against Florida, where he was basically thrust in the lineup when Connor Wegman was dealing with a shoulder injury. And one of the more confident throws he made was the first touchdown of the game to tight end Theo Malin-Ostrom. And he's always been a gamer. He just needed more talent around him which they did in the offseason, adding Concepcion and Craver, getting back a deep stable of running backs, and returning a veteran offensive line that has only given up 7 sacks this season. So they're the MVPs as well because he's been clean this entire year.
Absolutely. That offensive line has been impressive, not only in the passing game, but in the run game.
Yeah.
And you got some great backs, too. I know people around here are familiar with Le'Veon Moss, being that he's a Baton Rouge native, but Ruben Bain is also an awesome back. And that maturation, that growth from Reed is going to be huge coming into this environment this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And look, we know, as you just said, you already picked A&M to come out with a close win. Last question. How does it play out?
So me and my co-host Ken Torres, we talked through this for about 20 minutes last night, and we did see that there could be some rainy weather coming in. We'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, it's a 6:30 kickoff, so we do think that it's all going to clear up by then. But that was the case last week in Arkansas. It was a sloppy game. It was wet. A couple early runs were just guys slipping, and it does affect the game, and it does affect the game plan, especially if you're looking to control the ball and milk the clock, which A&M is trying to do. Because I will say LSU hasn't been extremely impressive, but Garrett Nussmeier is still one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He made a couple fantastic throws with guys in his face all day against Vanderbilt. And, if he can make a couple of those throws, and one of the guys I'm looking at that could be a mismatch is Trez Green, their tight end who looked like a star against Vanderbilt. A&M has had trouble defensively covering tight ends, especially the secondary, just because of some mismatch issues. He's a big dude, and if they're putting him in the seam just to open things up, get some plays downfield, that could be a problem. Mainly why I'm picking A&M is because of the matchup with backup left tackle, who's mainly a center, correct me if I'm wrong, DJ Chester, who's going to go against Cassius Howell.
Yes. So
Cassius Howell is currently, I believe, second in the country in sacks. He has 8.5 on the season. I think it's over 30-plus pressures. He has been a monster. He's been a game wrecker. He was held pretty much the entire game against Arkansas. It was kind of nuts where they just stopped calling it after a while. He was getting mugged, and it was like watching Micah Parsons at one point. It was kind of hilarious. I think he had 8 pressures in that game. Should have been more, and should have been a couple more sacks. But it could get pretty violent for Garrett Nussmeier. I'm going to be honest. And I've seen a lot of LSU fans are a little afraid of that because A&M's interior defensive line is also pretty formidable. DJ Hicks, transferred Tyler Odianum, Albert Regis, who has really turned into a stalwart, trustworthy nose tackle, has been a guy who's grown through this program and has become one of the team's best run stoppers. LSU does not have a run game. Obviously, they're last in the SEC. They're pretty much one-dimensional. So if you can keep Gus Meyer and pressure him throughout the day, my biggest thing is how LSU's defense is going to show up. They have DJ Pickett, who's been one of the best corners, Mansour Delane, I believe I can never pronounce his name correctly. Obviously, they've been shut down this entire season. They're going to try to bracket Mario Craver, I believe, in this game to try to shut him down, which is going to open up Concepcion, Terry Bussey, Ashton Bethel Roman. They just got more options now if you're going to shut down one of their stars. So it is going to be interesting how A&M is successful. But I will say that if they can run the ball in this game, it's going to set up explosive plays in the pass. And I can see this being a 27-24 type of battle where one team really comes out strong in the second half. I just don't know which team that's going to be. I trust A&M right now, but again, they're 7-0. They haven't lost yet. They came close last week. That was really outside of Notre Dame. That was the closest call they've had all season. So we'll see if that seeps in a little bit. But I just think confidence is everything. I think Marshall Reed has shown that he does not get scared on the road anymore. He's been in every tough road environment outside of playing in Austin, which it's not LSU. It's not even comparable to LSU. So I wouldn't say that, that later down the line will be tougher than this game. I think this is the toughest game they have left. They play in Columbia against Missouri in 2 weeks after the bye week. That's going to be allowed 1-2, but this is going to be the toughest game of his career so far. And if he can get out of it, I mean, and he has a good game, we will be talking about Marcel Reed as the Heisman favorite, I think, down the line. But this is a big one. But again, it's 50-50 for me. I think A&M will come out with the win, but at the same time, I could easily see LSU rebounding. I saw Brian Kelly today say they had a great week of practice. They're very determined to get back on the right track because even though the offense has been struggling, when you only have losses to Ole Miss and Vanderbilt on the road, it's not horrible. You just can't afford to lose anymore because of the way the rest of the SEC is playing. They're trying to avoid more than 2 losses. But look, if they win this game, I think LSU could get back on track. It's just they haven't shown vast improvement yet, especially offensively. But this is a big one. I mean, this is the game for Brian Kelly to prove that he's a good coach.
Huge game, man. You're bringing in Texas A&M, which is, from what I've seen, the most complete team in the SEC, which of course makes it one of the best teams in the country. Huge stakes. Can't rule LSU out. It's an absolutely awful matchup up front for that offensive line for LSU. You do have that home crowd behind you. LSU is gonna be imperative that they commit to the run game and avoid obvious passing situations, because just being straight up, they can't block Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Again, man, thanks a lot for your time, everybody.
Yeah, man, that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Enjoyed it. Y'all can find Cameron's work on Aggies Wire and as the host of Texas A&M Live on the Voice of College Football Network. Thanks again, man, and I'll see you soon.
I appreciate it, man. You have a good one.
You too.
Yep.
All right, we want to thank Cameron for coming on. Look, A&M is riding high. A&M is riding high. In a day and age where you have as much parity as we've probably ever seen in the SEC and in the college football period, A&M looks like the best team. To me, they have less holes. Alabama's playing at a high level right now when you look at the SEC. But A&M offensively, defensively, they have the guys, they have the staff, they have a dual threat at quarterback, which nothing against Ty Simpson. He's obviously one of the best quarterbacks in the country from the way he's playing right now. But that extra element is kind of like an ace in the hole. So A&M is going to be a huge game for LSU, and I can tell you right now, I don't agree with a lot of the fan base right now who's kind of panicking after Vanderbilt. Like I said before you came on, Vanderbilt is not an awful loss. So you look at that game and you got people talking about, going to lose the rest of the games. They won't win another one. They might beat Western Kentucky. Oh, they suck. They're terrible. There's a lot of space between we suck and we're a championship team. LSU was in there somewhere. You just got some holes on this roster and this staff that keep LSU from playing to the level where it should be. Now that we've talked to A&M, I was not done complaining about Vanderbilt. I was not finished with that game. I talked about earlier how you saw the difference in these staffs and how each staff has been able to develop these teams and develop who they are. You look at a team like Texas A&M. You know who Texas A&M is. You know what they want to do offensively and defensively. There's a plan. It's obvious. It's clear. LSU doesn't have that. You look at LSU running an offensive series, and you just kind of see a random assortment of plays. You don't see a set of plays that build on anything. You don't see establishing one play to run another play off of it. So that's the difference. You can't have just guys on the staff. You got to have elite guys. You got to have the best. And let's face it, LSU isn't the place for just guys. And I'm not trying to put anybody down on the staff, but you got to have proven guys who can coach at a high level when you're going against competition that LSU is facing from week to week. Look, moving forward, Vanderbilt's not the most talented team that LSU is going to play, obviously. but they are one of the better teams, and they have a special quarterback in Diego Pavia. So that's my little rant about Vanderbilt. I couldn't believe that so many people were so shocked and appalled by LSU losing to Vanderbilt. I had way more of an issue with the way LSU lost to Ole Miss, not even trying to run the ball. On that note, LSU ran it 28 times against South Carolina and kind of took control of the game. They ran it 21 times against Vanderbilt. And this is a one-possession game. This is a one-possession game that went back and forth. You ran the ball 21 times, and it's not like LSU couldn't run the ball. You averaged close to 6 yards a carry, and you only ran it 21 times. The last two series, where you had plenty of time to run any play in the playbook. This wasn't like you get the ball and there's 30 seconds left. Last two offensive series of the game, LSU just drops back and throws it every time. So that's the kind of stuff that you want to see more of a feel for the game from your OC, and you're just not getting it. Moving on, Texas A&M. Vanderbilt is in the past. You got A&M coming up, and A&M could not be coming at a worse time when you look at the injuries on this roster. An offensive line that's already struggling is now missing Tyree Adams at left tackle. So you got major issues on the right side of your line. Weston Davis is struggle. You're kind of hesitant to play Carius Kern for whatever reason. I don't know why you're so hesitant. What is he going to do? Not block him the way your older players isn't blocking him? Let's go with somebody who has a ceiling. Not to say that Weston Davis doesn't, but if it's not working, let's try something different. And you got a guy that could possibly grow. Anyway, so you're losing your left tackle. You got DJ Chester in at left tackle. And I don't think Chester can look much worse than he did last weekend at left tackle. And to be fair to him, it's not his natural position. But if he can look worse, he's going to do it this weekend against a guy like Cassius Howell of Texas A&M, who has two different games this year in which he has recorded 3 sacks. 2 different games, this guy's gotten 3 sacks in a game. This is a crazy front four for Texas A&M. I talked about Howell, but that tandem at defensive end, that edge rushers have forced 11 sacks. So terrible time to be missing Tyree Adams. Let's pray to whoever you pray to that Tyree Adams can come back soon. Weeks is questionable. Gooden is questionable. These are stars on your defense. These are the type of guys who can be the difference between a quarterback shaking loose and getting 40 yards down the field, or a quarterback shaking loose and a guy making an open field tackle for no gain. These are the type of players that Bernard Gooden and Whit Weeks are, and you're losing your absolute dudes on your front line and at your second level at linebacker. Well, I say you're losing them, they're questionable. So you might get them back. They might be 100. I mean, it might be 80%. You might not get them back. Who knows? But it's not a great time for it. Marcel Reed talked about Marcel Reed changed the whole season for LSU. That was the beginning of that whole snowball effect of running quarterbacks just running wild against LSU in 2024. Now, Reed hasn't run the ball as much this year. He's been more of a pocket guy. He's been a more effective pocket passer than he's been previously in his career. But he can still pull it down and run it when he needs to. Don't get it twisted. Reed can still run it. So you need to have your best athletes in the best position to make a play. Guys are going to have to step it up, of course. Wes Weeks, Devon Keys. You know what you're going to get from Perkins. Let's just hope that he isn't compromised in a way where he kind of gets neutralized in this game. You can't just put him in one spot, but you don't want to see him moved around to the point to where he's not having an effect on the game, and especially if Marcel Reed is going off in the run game. To be fair, LSU was still solid in the run game. You had a few runs that kind of busted loose as the game wore on against Vanderbilt. For the most part, LSU did well against the Vanderbilt running backs. It was Pavia who was the difference. But yeah, that's a lot to look at for LSU in this game. Missing those guys and going up against an A&M team that's honestly better than the A&M team that beat you last year, because now you got an older quarterback, and you also have some pretty damn good wide receivers. A&M hit the portal and they did not miss in the portal. Concepcion from North Carolina State, Mario Craver, I think he's leading the league or leading the nation in receiving yards. And not only are these guys good receivers, they're great receivers, and A&M gets the ball in their hands in a lot of different ways, in a variety of ways they get the ball in their hands. I'm talking motion, reverses, end arounds, screens. These are guys who are like little sticks of dynamite in the open field. And you're going to see A&M be pretty creative and getting the ball to these guys in space. And I think it's probably going to be the biggest challenge so far for this LSU secondary. And I like the LSU secondary, especially at corner. I think these guys are probably going to be even more of a challenge as far as tackling them in space for especially a younger guy like DJ Pickett than covering them down the field. I like LSU's corners in coverage against anybody. Unless you got just way too much time on your hands, I like these guys in coverage. But a missed tackle can cost you against a guy like Craver and Concepcion. You're going to get the ball out quick. It's going to be hard to pressure Reed. And it's already hard to pressure a guy like Reed because you have to be so disciplined in how you pressure him that you keep him contained, which was another issue for LSU against Vanderbilt. When you rushed and when you got up the field, you weren't disciplined in your rushing lanes. You weren't disciplined in containing Pavia to force him back inside. Some get outside too much, and that's frustrating. And let's hope that LSU was able to fix that. You got a pretty strong running game with Reed and Ruben Owens. LSU, unfortunately for Le'Veon Moss, you hate to see a guy get hurt. They won't have to see Moss in this game. But Owens is also a dog, and he's a guy that's going to move forward. He's not going to dance. He's not going to lose yards. This is a battering round with speed. And you're going against a great offensive line that's been able to create space against everybody. Guys had 200 yards of rushing against Arkansas. I don't care who you're playing against. 200 yards of rushing is a lot. So the onus is going to be on the LSU defense to keep this game in check. Seems like they've been asked to do way too much this year. Last week was the first time you really saw a team just do what they wanted to do against the LSU defense from start to finish. You'd have games where you'd have a team that could have a few good drives or hit a big play here and there. But that was the first game where you saw a team just routinely walk up and down the field like they're playing PlayStation or something. Like whatever they did worked. Then you just got to give a lot of credit to Pavia and that Vanderbilt offense. But LSU is going to need that defense again to step up. This is not a game where LSU is like some crazy underdog. We're talking about a 2.5-point underdog. As bad as things might look right now, it's still a lot of parity in this league. Anybody can win from week to week. It would not be a shocker whatsoever if LSU came out and beat A&M. The thing is, it's just a tough matchup because how do you block them? You weren't able to block Vandy. You weren't able to block Ole Miss. And I still say a lot of that is because you won't commit to running the ball enough. But you're going to have to figure out something. You got to get the ball out of Nussmeier's hands quick, for one. Got to get the ball out of his hands. You're going to have to pass on some unconventional downs, first down passes. You don't want to be predictable against this A&M defense. A&M is vulnerable to giving up some big plays. Arkansas was gashing them, but they were gashing them in the run game. Now, you can throw on them, too. They got some good corners in Ricks and Hill. Hill is a really good cornerback for Texas A&M, but he can get grabby. You can get bound with some of the speed that LSU has on the outside. But none of that matters if you can't run the ball and you can't buy Nussmeier enough time. So you've had a week now. And look, Kelly, you're an offensive guy. It's not all on Joe Sloan. Like, the buck stops at the head coach. It's not all on Joe Sloan. You're going to have to be creative. You're going to have to figure out how you can sustain an offense and keep Nussmeier clean, because if you don't, he's going to throw a pick. He's probably going to throw a pick even if you do keep him clean. But you got to come up with some way to have some balance and not put too much on Nuss. Here is how I see this game playing out. LSU is going to make some plays. LSU is going to make some plays offensively against Texas A&M. LSU has the talent to. They have the talent to make plays against anybody. What they don't have is a clear and obvious plan on offense. You never really know what they're completely getting at offensively. But I think they'll make some plays. I mean, you got too many weapons. Even if Aaron Anderson comes back and he's not 100%, I think they'll make some plays on this defense. A&M has a great defense, but they have shown the tendency to give up some big plays. Speaking of big plays, I think Marcel Reed is going to shine. LSU has improved against the mobile quarterbacks. You're not seeing them just go off like they did last year, but they're still having some trouble with them. And I think you got some indecision on, do you want to rush them? Do you want to spy them? With guys like Chambliss at Ole Miss, Pavia at Vanderbilt. So they're going to have to sort that out, but Reed is going to make some plays. The question is going to be, for me, if he can make those plays downfield. A&M has been great in the vertical passing game. He's been pushing the ball down the field. This isn't a dink and dunk offense, even though he's shown the growth to take the check down when it's there for him. So I'm seeing a back and forth game. I think LSU is going to make some plays. A&M is going to make some plays. The home crowd is really going to help LSU out a lot. I think the difference in this game could be on third down when you have these bad tackles on the field for LSU and you're going against the A&M defense with these awesome ends. And A&M is second in the nation right now in third down defense. And that's because of the pass rush. And they can get that pass rush without sending 5 guys. They can get that pass rush with the front 4. Elko is a great mind, a great defensive mind, and he's gonna throw a lot at Nuss. You're gonna see some simulated pressure. You're gonna see some looks that'll change late into the play clock. So I think third down, unfortunately, could be the difference in this game. And I think I gotta pick A&M, if I'm being honest with myself, on the winner of this game. Would it shock me if LSU won? Not one bit. But looking at it objectively, I'm picking A&M. We got a comment from Jackson Johnson of Alabama Live. What up, Jackson? What up, Bayou Bengal Nation? With a lot of exclamation points. All right, Jackson. So you look like you're way more excited than the Bengal Nation is right now. Bengal Nation is kind of down. LSU and the LSU fan base. Well, I won't say LSU, but the LSU fan base is kind of anxious right now. You don't know what's coming next. You got some people who are kind of protect their feelings and saying, "Oh, we're gonna lose everything." Kind of like a defense mechanism going there. You got fans who are angry at other fans for being negative because you can't say anything remotely critical, or that makes you less of a fan. But that's just what it is. It's part of it. Brian Kelly knows what's at stake right here. You've seen a different Brian Kelly this week in the press conferences. You're not getting the angry, snarky Brian Kelly. You're getting the warm, receptive. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate everybody coming to Nashville. You're getting that, Brian Kelly, because times are hard and things are tough and things are getting tight. So you need some positive results and you need them fast. But we will see if you get them. Until next time, it's your host, it's your boy, Lewis Johnson. I'll catch y'all Saturday night on the post game. Till then, go Tigers.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.